11th, 2025, at 6 p.m. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic that stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mr. Bogstaves? Here. Mr. Cole? Here. Public comment?
There's no sign sheet, it's just, they can just get voting at the podium. Whoever wants to go up, you can raise your hand and go up.
Stephen Davis?
Yes? No, I don't have any comments.
No?
No.
That's a sign sheet.
Oh, it's just a sign.
We don't have a sign sheet for comments, so whoever would like to come up is fine. Just give your name, please, and then we'll go.
Anybody would like to say anything? They can come up to the podium. Mr. Sprigg?
Greg Sprigg, 98 Chippewa Road. I'm here on behalf of myself and also my neighbor, Linda Tourette, who lives at 62 Chippewa Road. And there's some concerns that we've had over the last, how many months now? 8 months. So when you picked Chippewa Road last September, the skid steer came through there. It took a foot wide out of the bottom of her lawn and part of my lawn. And it was never filled, and I believe you told me, Joe, that Mark's gonna have to come by and fill this in at that time.
That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, well, it's never happened. You have mare's tail, Canada thistle growing out of there. It's all washing away. She can't cut it open. And she's not in any shape to get out there and weed. So it's 280 foot in length, times 1 foot wide, which comes to 280 square feet. And the depth, average depth there is 5 inches, which comes to 140 cubic feet. Divide that by 27, you're gonna need 5 cubic yards of topsoil plus seed and mulch to fill that in.
Is it past our right away?
Huh?
Is it past our right away? We have right away so far off.
I didn't measure it, but you told me it would fill in.
16 and a half feet from the
It's an inconvenience, it's an inconvenience to people who live there. I mean, just because it's in township right of way doesn't mean you have the right to denigrate it. Another thing, my neighbor that owns the golf course came to me last week and said, did you get a notice in your box that your mailbox is too low? I said, no, why? He said, well, there's a notice in there that told me that I had to raise my mailbox 41 to 45 inches above the road surface.
I got the same one. They didn't pay money.
Well, you're going to, right?
I get the
So
same
you're
one.
gonna get another one. Mine is 37 inches to the bottom of the box and 45 to the top. And it took 4 skid steer buckets of millings to fill in the ditch between the road and the mailbox. So the guy from the golf course had to cut his standpipe, add a 6-inch piece in it, just so he would meet the requirements. So you guys have to realize you're raising the height of the road without milling it. Everybody's gonna be out of compliance. Because of 5 mailboxes on Chippewa Road, there's only one that's in compliance. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mike Warnock, 65 Holman Road. What I'd like to say is, congratulations to the winners in the election. Okay? There was some talk going around that I made into election people. I did not so. I never intended that, but that's the way people understood it. My question, and I said, was the question on the machines. Were they operating properly? That was my question. Because everybody knows 10 o'clock at night, it said 100% was turned in. The next day it was turned in, they said something about it wasn't uploaded correctly. So that's why I said the machines is what I questioned. Okay. Also, I'd like to meet Kenny George face to face so I can explain the accusations that he made about me on Facebook. He wants to hide behind it, fine, but I'll explain the reason why. I was raised old school, and I wasn't a cat pouncing on people. People needed help getting out of their car, and I was there to open their door and help them if they needed assistance. So there's a bunch of other things on there, but I'm not going into it. Thank you.
You weren't helping nobody get out of your car. Quit lying.
Excuse me? Dog woman.
We don't have many people here that aren't on your side of the aisle right now, Bill, but what I'd like to say is I'm really concerned. The conditions in this township have made Somerset Township the laughing stock of Washington County. Between your public posts, between the things that are being said, there's so many things. Now, I'm on the Republican Party. The phone rang. I was getting a number of calls. What in the world's going on over there with Somerset Township? First of all, this is just crazy. So what I want to do is set the record straight. When you said about the recount, us, as far as the people that run this election, we have integrity.
I understand.
There were 2 slips put on that wall at the close of business, just as they were supposed to.
Okay.
If anybody wanted to know, that's why they are there. So that you guys want to see the totals, add them up. Where the problem lies is when it went in, the elections office did in fact upload both flash drives. But when it went to the notification bureau that the state uses, it timed out on their side, and the #1 precinct did not get added and didn't get caught until we caught it the next morning. Okay, because it was a long day for me. I went to bed. So I want to tell you that anybody here, do not challenge our integrity and our up board, because we stay in here at night and pick one person out of the election to count, and we count ballots to make sure that that scanner is accurate, because I'm the one that signs that paper, and it's my name on the bottom. So if you have a problem, please come see us, but please don't assume that it's something nefarious within this township, because we have not done it. The other thing is, there was a recount asked for, and there was some calls to the elections office, and they called and informed me, because of course the judge of elections is informed, and they were told that as a general rule, the elections office will pick 10 precincts out of the county to randomly check all of the counts to make sure that their machines are accurate. Now, they decided to do you guys a favor and count Somerset 1 and 2 because of the, I don't want to say harassment, but the very forceful nature of the request to have it counted. However, you guys didn't even stay. You stayed for half a day, for 4 hours, and left. The elections office calls me and said, you have another team coming in. No, the question is, if you're going to request that they do something, I would say the least you could do is have the respect to be there until the count is done. Again, that just makes our township look like we don't follow through, we're not that smart, it's really ridiculous. The other thing that I want to say, the concerns were addressed, is it's always Bill's side against the other side. That's why I'm sitting in the middle. I'm not on either side. I'm on the side of what's right and wrong. When I was a child, I was raised that you don't always get your way. You may not agree with how things are going, and you may not like how the outcome of this goes. But everything with one side or the other, it's always a fight. And to hide behind a transparency group that only some people can get into is really childish. And I'm sorry, but that says a lot about your integrity, because if you don't have the integrity to talk about people to their face, I'm sorry. What are you teaching children? I know you don't have any kids that are child age, but you should have grandchildren. And I'm sorry that people talk, and I think it's appalling to what goes on in this township right now. Now, what I would say is, why can't we have a compromise? Why can't we have a meeting instead of denigrating each other and going back and forth? Why can't we have a meeting instead of bashing everybody? Doesn't get anywhere. You haven't accomplished anything. I mean, the audit got done. They spent tons of money. Now you want another audit because that's not right. I mean, let's deal with what we have, and you can smile all you want. You know, you don't intimidate me, Bill. I don't care.
This is a personal attack, you know.
It isn't a personal
Yes, it
attack.
is.
Oh, yes,
Yes, it is. It's a personal attack.
Okay,
Listen,
that's enough.
what I'm going to tell you there, I also got calls from the voters with regards to the attacks in this parking lot. Now, state law and federal law, this building during an election is a government building by the government, federal government. We, as judge of elections and the elections office, are required to have a safe, harassment-free zone to come in and vote. Voters come in here complaining about the ability to get here. They call the elections office, the same thing. Okay, I stood there and watched people. They didn't even barely get out of their car, and people were standing there to give them their political speech. That is not legal. The problem, you may feel that you did not do it. You may feel you were sitting there, okay, and I'm not saying anybody, whatever. What I'm saying is, you may feel you didn't do anything wrong, and that's fine. But if I had a voter feel that I was intimidated and I was harassed, it's perception. And that's what the law says. It's perception of the voter. And the voters were not happy. We have been instructed that the next election in November, if it happens again, we are to call the elections office and they will send the state police. Okay, I'm just telling everyone because that's my duty. But I'm also saying I watched it. So please don't tell me that it didn't happen. And the only other thing that I would like to say is, this is a great place, and I'd rather get the publicity for having a great place than all of the turmoil that has been created in this township. You guys, I don't care what everybody says, you're trying. You may not be as willing to try in the way that some people would like, but you're at least giving of your time, you're doing what you can, you're looking at the avenues. I think the rest of the township needs to maybe look at both sides and maybe find a better way rather than plastering things like 12-year-olds on Facebook. We're adults. Let's act like it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Oh, hold on one second.
Yes, since I've been personally attacked, I think I need to make a couple comments. First one is the integrity of the election process. The reason we didn't stay is we had complete confidence in everything that they were doing. And there was no reason for us to sit there for another 3 or 4 hours. So that was not disrespect. That was total respect for the process that they were doing. The comment on inappropriate actions, you realize that for the whole morning, I had one of the 3 Washington County commissioners standing right beside me in all the discussions and approach to the voters coming in.
Yeah.
And the only problem he had was your husband, who was recording it, and he had a yelling match. He had a yelling match.
Excuse me, come on, seriously.
We had one of the 3 county commissioners standing right beside me the entire time, and the only problem he had was when you were recording and he pointed out this was illegal and you had a confrontation with him. So I'm not going to go into the rest of this. This isn't the way to say that we're making negative comments. The transparency group, we record the meetings, we look at the rules, the they're not being followed, we bring them forward. We don't attack if we're not following things like not filing financial reports. We brought that to everyone's attention because the law requires it. The budgets, you have to give the residents budgets before the end of the year. Residents get input. That was not being done. That's the focus of the transparency group. It's not, and you won't find on the site individual attacks on people, but that's all we want to say right now. We'll be saying more in the future. You can count on that. Thank you.
Please do.
We definitely will be.
All you did was fill the commissioner's head with all your lies.
You better get him to shut up
Enough.
That's enough.
Stop.
now.
Enough.
Don't stop.
As for the middle,
Board members, thanks for having me here this evening.
Thank
Just
you.
wanted to go over highlights and results of the 2024 audit township.
Can you speak up, please?
Please identify yourself.
Mark Turnley, the independent auditor for the township. Board members, I put in front of you, I think Julianne, we have in front of them, a synopsis of the results of the audit. Right inside the front cover of that audit report, there's a letter dated for this evening, June 11th. You'll know you have the right document in front of you. About halfway down it says General Fund Balance Analysis. That's the document I'll be talking about, so if you be kind enough to follow along. And as I go along, if you have questions, please don't hesitate. The majority of what I want to talk about is your main operating fund, your general fund. As you know, in addition to that general fund, we have other pots of money, but those other pots of money, like your liquid fuels, your Act 13 operating reserve, your fire fund, those monies are restricted for particular purposes. So the general fund, which is unrestricted, unassigned, where the majority of the activities flow through, is going to be the bulk of my presentation. So on page 1, I give you a 5-year history of the fund balance of the general fund. Now, the fund balance are the remaining monies to be carried forward after you take all your cash accounts, plus any liabilities, escrow accounts. This is after that, the net monies that are carried forward into each year. So I give you a 5-year history of the general fund balance. And if you look at the bottom of the table, you can see for 2024, we ended the year at $868,861. Again, we're just talking about the general fund. So you can see the increases and decreases over that time frame. I have 2 asterisks there, one for 2023, where you see the decline in fund balance, and then this year where you see the increase in fund balance. I put those there just as a refresher to the members of the board on why those changes were, why the decrease in 23, the blips, if you will, and why the increase in 2024. Now, across the board, as I say, in that second asterisk point at the bottom, there were a lot of increases and decreases in revenues and expenditures from 2023 to 2024. But the main reason that affected your fund balance to increase for the year was the fact of in 2023, you had a significant payment out for your road project. In 2023, of about $572,000. You didn't have that same cost in your general fund for 2024. So that savings naturally led to that increase in fund balance. When you turn to the top of page 2, in our industry, there's an organization called the Government Finance Officers Association. And they like to determine what a good fund balance is. We get that question all the time. So they've done studies for municipalities, school districts, all type of governmental type entities. What is a good fund balance? And what they look at is what is your fund balance as a percentage of your budget, the budget year, the following budget year. So I did the math for the board in the first paragraph. And you can see as of December 31st, 2024, that unassigned fund balance that I just talked about on page 1 is approximately 63% of the approved 2025 budget. The GFOA recommends for municipalities that at a minimum, you maintain or try to maintain at least on average 2 months worth of general fund expenditures. So if you follow that paragraph wording, the paragraph 2 months of expenditures is about $230,000, which is about 26% of that 2025 budget. So you can see that in comparison to what the GFOA recommends at a minimum, you're in good shape. You're well over that dollar on their threshold for what you want to maintain going forward. Now to break down the components of how you got to that fund balance, we take a look at general fund revenues, a 5-year history. And if you look from 23 to 24, if you look at the bottom of that table on page 2, you can see that revenues decreased in 24 by about almost 88,000, a little over 5%. And I just note for the board, although there were ups and downs in revenues for 23 versus 24, one of the main reasons for that decline is gas well impact fees decreased from 630,000 in the prior year to 388,000 into the general fund for calendar year 2024. So that led, for the most part, that decrease in revenues.
Can I ask a question? This isn't an agenda item, and it's what, a 45-page budget review? Wouldn't it be appropriate to put it on the agenda so that anyone that had questions could actually bring a copy and ask appropriate questions? I mean, this is what we're going by. The agenda doesn't have this on, and you're going to go through 45 pages?
No.
It's not an agenda item.
He's just giving a brief synopsis of our.
Okay, so you have like 5 more minutes, or?
The board's pleasure. At the top of page 3, staying with the general fund, the expenditures for the year, a 5-year history of that. Once again, if you look at the bottom line, 2024 compared to 2023, significant decrease in expenditures out of that general fund by about $714,000. Again, as I talked about for the fund balance, the main reason for that was in 23, you paid approximately $572,000 for that road project, and you didn't have that recurring expense in 24. That was the main reason for the significant drop in expenditures from 23 to 24. Now looking, how did we do budget versus actual results? That first bullet point at the bottom of page 3 talks about revenues. Actual revenues exceeded budgeted revenues by approximately $192,000. That's the side of the equation you want to be on with regard to revenues. You want your actuals to exceed your budget, if at all possible. So I just showed for the board, there are 3 main areas that I picked out where they're either positive or negative in relation to your budget. And you can see taxes were over budget by about $138,000. Intergovernmental revenues, which are grants, money of that nature from third-party governmental units, a little under budget by about $40,000. And then refunds, other financing sources types of money over by about $65,000. But there are a number of different categories. In that thick audit report, I'll call your attention to at your leisure when you get a chance. In that thick audit report, in the back, in the very back of it, there are 4 pages. The Schedule 1 is dedicated to detailed revenues, budget versus actual, and the second schedule, Schedule 2, is detailed expenditure, budget versus actual. What I'm talking about here on my presentation is just at a summary level, so the board can see in total how did we do budget versus actual. But if you want to detail line item by line item, real estate taxes, earned income taxes, any other type of revenues you got in your general fund, that's where you want to go to Schedule 1 in the back of that thick audit report. Going on to the top of page 4, the second bullet point deals how did we do with expenditures versus budget. Actual expenditures exceeded budgeted expenditures by about $79,000. Actual exceeded budget by $79,000. And I highlight for the board the 5 main areas that had positive or negative. Public safety, over budget by about 80. You'll be able to quickly see what caused these variants in budget for actual. In other words, public safety, I can just tell you, just from remembering that Schedule 2 in the back, one of the items that wasn't budgeted that you incurred actual expenses, there was fire protection costs of about $74,000. And that's why you have this over budget in that particular area. But again, when you look at that schedule in the back of the report, you'll see. Public Works, you were under budget by about $205,000. Again, and I won't go over all these in detail, when you look at that budget versus actual, if memory serves me, in calendar year 2024. That's why we have that favorable balance. And keep in mind, your books are done on what is called the cash basis of accounting. And the cash basis of accounting really just looks at what you actually received and what you actually paid out. There are other methods of accounting that other municipalities use. I have a lot of clients, municipal clients that use your basis, called cash basis, others that use a more detailed basis called the actual amount. So the cash basis wouldn't pick that up until we got into 2025. So keep that in mind when you're looking at your budget versus actual results. And you can see the other ones, benefits and fees, engineering fees, and municipal building maintenance. You can see all the positive and negative variances. And then at the bottom of this page, talking about deposits of township funds, and then going on to the top of page 5, just some comments on internal controls, ways to improve the operations from in the business office perspective, and board members can read those at your leisure. And as I talked about briefly, in addition, I talked about the general fund because of the volume of activity, but we do have those other costs of money, all those various ones, liquid fuels, the operating Act 13 monies, all those various monies, and at the end of the year, at December 31st, 2024, the fund balance for all of those combined was $4 million, I'm rounding this off, $4,051,000. The bulk of that money was in liquid fuels, and then to a greater degree, Act 13 operating reserve funds. Those were the two big pots of those extra monies you have that are earmarked for particular purposes, not available for general operating, but earmarked for particular purposes. That's how much the township has prudently set aside for those particular operations. So I think in a nutshell, just as brief as I could, this synopsis kind of gives you the highlights of everything and the results in all your funds, but mainly your general fund, and gives you some perspective going back 5 years so you can kind of track how you've been doing from a financial perspective.
All right.
If any board members have any questions.
Mr. Attorney?
Yes.
A brief history, how many townships or boroughs do you represent?
In terms of municipalities, city, boroughs, we have over 50.
All right, can I ask a question on the numbers? I have read the report, but since it wasn't on the agenda, I didn't even bring it. I wasn't prepared to ask questions, but I do have a couple questions. One of them is that it appears that, and as you mentioned, it's done on a cash basis. For some reason, we decided to wait until the 29th of January to pay for the chipping and paving projects, which are about, I believe the total is about $350,000. I think the chipping project was about $80,000, and the paving project was about $280,000. Why would we wait until the 29th of January to pay the bill, which is why the budget is way under, because we actually did these major road projects in 24, but because we're reporting on a cash basis and someone decided to wait to pay the bills for several months until the 29th of January, it didn't show up as an expense in your reports, which is of course proper for a cash basis, but from the standpoint of a taxpayer, it doesn't properly represent what was spent on projects for overhead and capital. And the other thing that I noticed in my preliminary review was the original budget for operating expenses and capital for 2024 was $1,149,000. And when you did your budget summary at the back of your report, it showed, I believe, the total for the capital budget and operating expenses was about $1,280,000. So your budget that you're comparing to was more than the original budget, and we actually had to do a right to know to get the original budget. We didn't get the original 2024 budget until February 27 after our second right to know request. And so that budget, which was supposed to be the official budget for the township, had $1,149,000 total for capital and operating expenses. So those are questions we had, which we'd like to discuss in more detail at a subsequent meeting, but looking at the budget review, what we're interested in as taxpayers, obviously, is how much money are we spending? And because, can someone answer why? I mean, we have $4 or $5 million in the bank. I presume that, I know paving vendors are not well capitalized. I'm sure they didn't like waiting 3 months to get paid. Did we have to pay extra money? I mean, the ledger information showed this is when those 2 invoices were paid, and subsequently didn't get caught in the expenses for 24 because you're on a cash basis. But does someone know why we waited months to pay those?
I don't want to give you an answer right now, but I will find out.
Okay, that's, and the other high-level question is, you did the budget comparison, which is correct and is very useful, and you did it at a high level of detail, which is also very useful. You do the original budget, and you do the actual, and then you do the difference. But I noticed in that the original budget did not match the number that was in the budget that we were given that was actually public. And that was part of our identification of problems with the township, where we had not been given a budget, and we actually hadn't filed, and you're aware of that, because I think you did the catch-up audits. We had about 2.5 years that we didn't file the annual financial report, which is required by the state. And it wasn't until our investigation, which I was chairman of the planning commission, I wanted to find out how much we were spending on the outside consultant to do the planning work. And through that investigation work, I found out that we had not been filing the financial reports as required by the state for about 2.5 years. And you were brought in and did that, and I know, and caught up on all that. But we would like to get an answer certainly to the question on the payments, but we'd also like to ask some more questions on the comparisons at a future meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Turley, you sent us a letter. Do you feel that $100,000 would be a sufficient bond for our treasury with the money that we?
Julianne, do you remember the specific dollar amount I put in that email, or Kim may have put in the email to you on what we found with the government? We looked at the government manual, EPA for municipality, and also Google from a nationwide perspective, what is appropriate. Now, sometimes real estate tax collectors, just because of the volume of what they collect, their bond is higher, but the secretarial bond varies anywhere from 100,000 to whatever I had in that email, Julie.
Ms. Turnley said between 100,000 and 200,000.
Yeah.
That's for a secretary.
Based on.
That's for a secretary.
I mean, what we see is almost everything we get is, paid right to the bank, like a direct thing. Like, she doesn't even see that kind of money.
That's
Like,
correct.
the most money she sees probably is $5,000 from our renters over here.
We have, as I mentioned, we do a number of municipalities, and some of them are more healthy than Somerset Township, some are less off. But that seems to be the range, and a lot of times what they'll go to their insurance agent, and they'll give them their finances and say, what do you recommend? Those folks are better than me to ask what they see, because they see hundreds of governmental units. I just know from our perspective what our clients use, and then by looking at the government, you look at the rules and regulations, they'll recommend this level, 100 to 200,000. But it truly does come down to how much access you have to liquid cash. And a lot of our municipalities receive a lot of money through ACH via direct deposit. So you're right, they need to get their hands on that.
Yeah, I mean, we have, most everything we have is direct deposit, and everything that we pay is by pre-signatures. So.
You're saying,
we feel that they wanted us to bond that they found housing.
My only comment to that is, I just, once again, my clients, as I told you, we have a wide range. I never see for the secretarial position that high. That's pretty high. Unless you suspect, the real estate tax collectors, that's different. total amount to be collected. That's a whole different story. They work out of a different office. They're held accountable from a different perspective. But unless you feel that, you have a lot of liquid funds that are changing hands, or you suspect improprieties that you feel you need to cover at that level, and still, that's a significant amount, a $500,000 bond is gonna cost a lot of money compared to $100,000. That doesn't mean you don't do it if it's not necessary. I'm not applying that, but I'm just telling you what I see generally in our municipalities, and what I'm reading out there, what is approved range for the secretary/treasurer position of a municipality.
Excuse me, are we talking about the secretary or the treasurer?
Julianne, you serve both functions?
Yes.
So we're talking about the treasurer.
I'm doing the slash.
So of your 50 municipalities that you do the audit on, how many have 5 million in the bank, and what do they have for a surety bond? Just of your municipalities?
Well, I mean, I don't have a list of that.
But
for you,
just-
But I have one, I can tell you, like, we just finished an audit the other day where they are in the $12 million range for just their general fund alone, and I believe they're at 200,000. 12.
I was told by John Weaver, who is the liquid fuels specialist that approves the liquid fuels grants, that we needed a $300,000 bond just for the liquid fuels. Because it needs to cover the amount of the liquid fuels grant, which I believe in our case is $280,000. I was told that directly by John Weaver. And we've had 500,000 was required. We had 750,000 in the prior administration, and that was what was mandated. And I think, Jim, you have Nottingham. What is the surety bond at Nottingham Township? Nottingham has probably half the total funds in the bank that we do. And what is the amount of the surety bond you have on Nottingham?
I don't remember.
It's at least 750,000.
I don't know, I doubt that. But I don't know.
Well, you could get that answer for us at the next meeting, right?
I don't know how strong it is.
That's all right, we'll get it.
We'll get it.
We'll get it.
Call this up.
I mean, once again, I'm not an insurance expert, so I don't want to
And
talk.
which township was that? The municipality that
No.
He's not
you
gonna say
can't
He's
mention
not
that?
gonna
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
I just want to give you some perspective, because you asked the question, I didn't want to ignore your question. There are different types of insurance, an insurance agent would be a better person to ask it. There's fidelity bonding, and there's other types of commercial insurance for theft that supplement, if you will, that fidelity bonding.
Right.
So the fidelity bonding is what I'm talking about this evening with regard to what I researched. To answer your question, and again, I don't know why this would be, but your point about the 300,000, I don't have a lot of municipalities, I have a lot of smaller municipalities that don't have anywhere near that level, the 300,000. So
It depends on the liquid fuels grant.
well, that's true.
The amount, that's part of the
That's
code.
true, but even at 200,000, if my client's getting 200 or 300,000, whatever the case may be, I can assure you, just from what I know, doesn't mean it's in compliance with the Fuels Act. It's not $300,000. But again, it's just.
It depends on the level of the grant from liquid fuels, which depends on the miles of roads, of course.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. Need a motion to accept the minutes of the May 14, 2025 meeting. I'll second it. All in favor? Yes. Need a motion to accept approval of checks, warrants, transfers as listed, and any other necessary transfers. Second. All in favor? Yes. Old business. Need a motion to set the treasurer's bond at $100,000. I'll second it. All in favor? Yes. Need a motion to open the 2025 paving project bids. I'll make a motion, or I'll second it too. All in favor?
Yes.
bids. Morgan Excavating, $267,391.70. El Grande, $286,993.20. Golden Eagle, $286,500. Redstone, $249,128.60. Redstone, low bidder.
What was their figure again, please?
Excuse me?
What was their figure again, please? Redstone,
249,128.60 for Redstone.
thank you.
All right, I need a motion to award the 2025 paving project to Redstone. That would be on, upon a review from our engineer, but
I'll make the motion.
Stephanie said the mics are not working. She said try to unplug that.
Plug it back in. Plug it back in.
Okay, Joe made the motion.
okay, I second the motion. All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
I need a motion to open the 2025 partnership project. Oh, no,
No bids.
no bids received on that. So Jim, want to rebid that?
Rebid it, yes. If you want to rebid it, you make a motion right now to rebid partnership project and notify KLH.
I need a motion to reopen that bid for the 2025 partnership project.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. I need a motion to reject the bids for the spud drive culvert project.
I'll make the motion.
I second it. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. I need a motion to rebid and award at the July 9th meeting, the Spud Drive Culvert Project, contract number 2025-01, rebid and award of the Board of Supervisors meeting on July 9th, 2025. Second.
Excuse me, Mark, can I just ask you why everything was rejected?
Yeah, our engineering firm was doing this project, and they were overseeing everything, and they failed to advertise this in the paper.
Especially that last Wednesday, when Julie sent to me, we checked, and they didn't advertise, so they had to redo it. So we did it this time.
Is it okay now?
I'll make a motion to go in executive session for a minute with the board.
Yes.
do I do?
See
Finish
if you
it?
can hear.
What do I do now? Do I finish and restart it?
Yeah, well, we can pull that out and then.
We're gonna have a big dead thing. I should finish.